Hey guys, hello everyone. Good evening, guys. Hi Krishna. Yes, we are live and we will start the session soon. So I hope you all are excited for today's bootcamp that we are starting with as you all know, we are starting with the Power BI bootcamp, which is for 2 days and 2 hours each day session. So let me know, guys, if I'm audible to you all or not. Can you guys hear me? Good evening, Sujan. Hi, Sagar. Hi, Suman. Hi, Velu. Good evening. Guys, I'm audible and visible to you all. Can you give me a heads up, please, in the chat? Audible, audible. Okay, okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the confirmation. And it's look good that people are active in the chat. I hope you all will stay active throughout the session and have a great learning. And I must. Achha, okay. Okay. Thank you, guys. You guys can also let me know from where you people are joining, and um, what if you have any doubt, any questions. I will share my screen quickly. First of all, though, please guys make a note that certificate. Yes, there is a certificate, and it is free. No fee, nothing you have to pay for it. For that, you just need to mark your attendance for the next 2 days. I will share my screen and explain you all about the attendance process as well in a minute. So okay, so apart from that, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat. Either the moderator or the trainer, that is Avesh sir, who will be there with you for the next 2 days, who will be teaching you Power BI. He will be answering all your queries. Okay, I'm joining in the laptop. It's great. Okay, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Mumbai, Chennai, Telangana. Okay, people are joining from various different states. Okay, it's good, great. We are joining from Navi Mumbai, Maharashtra. Okay, and my name is Anam Khan. I'm here just to let you know about the attendance process. As I already mentioned, that your trainer is Avesh sir. So I will just take 10 minutes of yours to explain you all the attendance part. Let me share my screen. Also, let me know if it's okay. 1 minute. So I hope you all can see my screen as well. If not, then let me know. If yes, then also let me know in the chat. Yes or no. Voice is lagging. Is my voice is lagging, guys? Duration of the class will be for 2 hours each day. Like today and tomorrow, the timing will be from 6 to 8 p.m. Okay. Hello. No. Okay, I will speak slowly, like calmly, so it won't lag. Okay. So, guys, I hope you all can see my screen. You're welcome, Birdly. Clear? Okay. So, guys, here in the description box for attendance, you can see registration, attendance, certificate. We have this one link. We call it as a one link, as everything is placed at one place. You can enroll for the boot camp, mark your attendance, join the communities, and get the certificate from the one page itself. So, click on this link. You will be redirected to another page where you need to first of all enroll for the program. If you haven't, then only the attendance bar will be accessible to you. Toggle will be accessible to you all to mark the attendance. As I've already marked, so it's not asking me to now enroll for the program. So when you enroll, you can scroll down the page. Here below the day one title, here you can see mark attendance toggle. Click on it. A rating scale will open from 1 to 10. You can rate the session according to yourself, how much you would like to give the rate to this session. I will suggest that please put the ratings, that is mark your attendance after the session, so you will be able to give the honest feedback here. If you have any feedbacks for us, you can put it here, rate the session, and yeah, you can mark your attendance anytime during this program duration of this program. Okay, so when I will click 10, and here is a feedback box. If you have any, you can put it here and mark your attendance by clicking on it. So as you can see here, the it has got blue in color, and this progress bar also has increased to 50%. So when you mark your attendance, it will increase. Today it is 50%, and tomorrow it will be 100% when you mark your attendance. And tomorrow when the session will get end, that is when this bootcamp will get end, that time below this progress bar you will be able to generate your certificate. Okay, now it won't be visible to anyone. When the program will get end, that is tomorrow after 8 o'clock, you will get to see a download certificate option here. so you can download your certificate right from this page itself. Okay, I hope I'm very much clear about the attendance part. If anything else still you have doubt, or you want to know how to mark your attendance, just rewind the video a little bit. You will be able to see the video, how I have marked my attendance. Okay, I will also share this link here in the description. Okay, sorry, in the chat. You can find the link in the chat as well. So apart from the attendance, guys, here in this page we have this communities, which Discord and WhatsApp. You can join us there to get regular updates, daily invites, program reminders, and many more things are there. So you will be connected with us, and you can also connect with Let's Upgrade or your friends too. If you have any queries, you can ask them, clear your doubts as well anytime. So I hope you all will join this communities. And one more thing, we have this student ambassador program, which is a free 1 month program. Nothing you have to pay. Again, it is a free program, which the next batch will start from 1st June. More 3 days, so you still have time to enroll. You can apply by clicking on this apply now button, and this is basically that you will be the ambassador for Let's Upgrade for 1 month. And these are the exciting prizes that we give away, that is iPad, gaming chair, smartwatch. You can check out our social media page, so that students have already won. You can check the post and everything. And these are the like swags. This is the badge. There are certain targets that you need to achieve there, then only this will unlock. That is gold, silver, and bronze. So it will unlock upon your target achievement. Okay, so this was it about the SAP program. If you still want to know more about it, check out our website. You will get to know more about it. Okay, certificate will be unlocked upon the completion of this course, that is by tomorrow end of the session. Okay, attendance link I have shared. Please check out the chat. Okay, guys, we also have one more thing, that is all-in-one documentation. So here again in the description box you can see all-in-one doc. Click on it, and a document will open. Of course you cannot download it as a PDF format, but yeah, you can save the link. This is the short link. You can save it and use it anytime, refer it anytime. This is the attendance link, and this, when you scroll, these are the session links, and these are the notes. Basically curriculum, what are we going to teach you for the next 2 days. You can refer this. You will get to know what are the modules we are going to cover. And if searches any of the data set or any PDF or any links, be it anything, all the resources will be uploaded in this all-in-one documentation itself. So you don't need to go here and there and save so many of links. You can just come to this all-in-one documentation and find all the resources, links, or session links here itself. Okay, I hope I'm clear. So that was it from my side, guys. Still you have any queries, you can ask us in the chat throughout the session. So we'll definitely help you out. And okay, Shubham. So guys, let me call the trainer now, that is Avish sir. Hello sir, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Anam?
I'm also doing good,
Okay.
sir. So you can start. We can start with the session, sir. My part is
Okay,
done,
sure.
and they are already waiting to start the session. So I will
Sure.
hand over to you and take a leave. So thank you,
Okay,
guys.
thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm just adjusting the camera now. Just 1 minute. Slide. Okay. So sorry, I just had to take a little bit of time to get the camera adjusted. Anyways, I hope I'm audible to all of you and you're able to see me clearly. I'm monitoring the session on another device as well, so I think it should be clear here as well, so that I can see how things are going about. I will be monitoring your comments. I can see a lot of people are worried about the certification. Please don't worry. The certification is going to be given to you, and there is no fees to be paid, as Anam has already mentioned this to you. The only objective here that you should have is to kind of gain the skill and learn stuff. Okay. So before I actually begin the session, let me give you a quick update. Let's Upgrade is doing a fantastic job. Every month they keep rolling out these kind of public workshops and boot camps for people who are trying to pivot their careers into different database roles or maybe software based roles. And there are a lot of other workshops that they do run. So please stay updated with their page on LinkedIn, stay connected with them on LinkedIn and the other platforms. They are doing a wonderful job offering a lot of good stuff for absolutely no cost. Okay. With that said, I like to take this opportunity to thank the entire team of Let's Upgrade for giving me this opportunity to interact with people across India specifically, and I think there are a few international people as well. So we've got a good number of people who've connected with us today. We have about 330 odd people who've been connected with us in this particular live stream. I welcome every single person, and I hope that all of you gain the best amount of knowledge from here, and you do have a great time learning. Okay, so I'm going to present my screen and I'm going to start my session today by talking about what Power BI is and how Power BI is useful in the industry. So for me, I have been working with Power BI and the other uh, tools for a very, very long time now. And I have realized that working with these tools gives you an edge in the industry, and it really helps you to grow fast. Also, it helps you to, just 1 minute, hold on. Sorry. Yeah. So we do have that edge when you actually go to the industry. I know a lot of people who have been moving into the industry. They've been learning tools like SQL, Python, R, SQL, all these things, okay? Excel for that matter. So it's best if you just go ahead and work with these tools and, you know, learn these tools. So it makes a lot of difference. Okay, so yeah, what's my role in the company? Akash, I am a freelance trainer for Let's Upgrade. Okay, and I do a lot of trainings for them. Okay, so let's begin. Let's not waste any further time. So I'm going to present my screen, and I'm assuming that my screen will be visible to you without any lag or delay. Okay. So the data sets that I'm going to be sharing for this bootcamp will be these 3 data sets. We will not be working with all the 3 data sets, but we will be working with just 1 or 2. But because we have one more session, which is more or less a case study based session, where I'm going to be teaching you how to work with the tools with respect to Excel and Power BI and how to create dashboards out of them. So let's begin with the session and let's understand how do we start off with working with Power BI. Now, to begin with, installation of Power BI is very, very simple. You need to go to your start button and then search for the store, Microsoft Store. And then you can search for Power BI in the start over here or in the search button. And then you can see here you've got Power BI desktop. Okay. So Power BI desktop is the one that we would want to use, not Power BI report builder, because this is absolutely available for free. So please note, this is available for free and you don't have to pay anything. But yes, there are the paid versions where you've got the Power BI Pro and Premium licenses, which are used for working with the service. Okay, so this is absolutely available for free. This is the Power BI desktop version. Now, the advantage of installing Power BI from here is that you don't have to worry about updating anything. Everything will be updated by itself. You don't have to worry about updating anything. Another way of actually going about with Power BI installation is you can go online, you can search for Power BI desktop, and you can download the exe file, which you normally would do for any application in Windows. Okay. Another very important thing, this is not available on a Mac platform. So if you're a Mac user, you cannot use Power BI desktop. But yes, there is an alternative for it, wherein you can install something called as the Parallels software. This allows you to create a virtual machine. After you've installed Parallels, you create a Windows 10 or 11 machine on that, and then you install Power BI Desktop. So if you have access to something which is a Windows machine, it's best that you directly install Power BI. That will be great for you. Okay. So that's the installation part. Very, very simple. Very, very okay. How to use SQL and Python in Power BI? Okay. So there are a few questions that are just being put up. One is by Balidan, sir, Power BI Tableau, which one is better? See, Power BI is more, you can say, it's more frequently used in the industry, and Power BI has got a larger fan base, or you can say a larger customer base. Okay, I think that kind of answers your question in short. Usage of SQL and Python in Power BI is not going to be covered in this particular uh, bootcamp, because this is more of a very basic bootcamp. But yes, I will cover up the SQL connection to a certain extent when I talk about how to work with it in the case study time. At that time, I will discuss it. Okay. Attendance, you can mark it according to it, whatever I think has already been mentioned by Anna. Okay. Abhishek Anand, Linux also, I'm assuming it's not part, or it's not available on Linux as well. I think on Linux you have to install Wine, and then maybe you have to go about installing Power BI Desktop. Okay. So I think that kind of covers the entire paradigm, or the entire aspect of the installation part. Yeah, don't worry, Krishna, you will get the data set. I will be sharing the data set with Anam on email. She will put it up, as she mentioned, on that all-in-one documentation site. So don't worry about that. Okay. Now let me discuss what we are going to be doing in terms of Power BI. So first things first, I will directly open up the global superstore data set, and I will tell you what this data set consists of. And we will talk about some very, very important concepts like data literacy, and then I will move ahead into the next part. Okay. So here you can see I have got a lot of data, and this data is more or less a single uh, table of data that contains all my columns of data. Okay. Now, before you actually move into Power BI, if you've come to attend the Power BI bootcamp, do a long session. If you could somehow share the data, why Kaggle? Mehul, I would love it to be a do-along session, but the only thing is that right now, if I try to share it, it's going to be a little difficult. And by the time it reaches you, maybe the session will get over. And by the time I send it across, okay, let me try to do one thing. Let me just share it with Anam. If she's there in the meeting, I think she will directly just forward it to you. Let me just try and share it with her. Okay. Anam, are you there in the meeting? Okay, I'm just sharing this with Anam, and I will see if she can kind of forward it. And in fact, let me also try to put this on some drive directly. Maybe we transfer something should be good enough. 1 minute, hold on. I'm just creating a quick WeTransfer link so that all of you can get access to this. Okay, this link that I'm creating will just be available to all of you for 3 days. So please make sure that you people are using it or downloading it right now. Don't wait for the next day or 2 days, please. Okay. Oh, great. I think they're already uploading it there. Thanks a lot. I love the team. They're doing pretty well, and they always are there to have me, or they always have my back. Thanks, Anam and team. Great. Thank you. Great, great, great. Okay. So I think you should get it from there as well. Okay. So I'm not really getting into that. Anyways, I'll just copy this also, and I will put this across here. I have put it. I have put a WeTransfer link as well, Anam. But anyway, since you're putting it across, I don't think there should be much of an issue. So let me just present my screen now, and then let's not waste any time. Okay. So the data sets will be shared, and I think have already been shared with you. If you've received it, please let me know, everyone. Great. It should be on that all-in-one document. Everyone, please check it there. I think already Anam has spoken about it. Okay. So I think now I'm sharing my screen, and by now you should be able to see my entire screen. Great. Uh, yeah, AB Rocky, you should be able to reach at least intermediate level. I'm just looking at the questions very quickly. Okay. So the link has also been shared on WeTransfer. I think, Anam, if you're there backstage, please share that link from the backstage to the chat on the comments. I think that should really help. I will also do that. 1 minute. Hold on. Just one. Okay, I think. So I'm just putting it into the chat as well, so that from there you can directly pick it up. Okay, I have shared the. Great. Okay, I think you've received it. Fantastic. Okay, great. So everyone, I think now it's time for us to move ahead. We spent a good amount of time getting things sorted. Uh, Despite putting everything across, I think people still had a little bit of issues. But I think I've already put in the link in the chat, so please make sure that you download the files from there. And also, I think already LetsUpgrade backend team has put it in the all-in-one documentation link. Thanks a lot, Anam and team, for that wonderful support. You always have my back for me. Thanks a lot. Okay, let's begin. Now, whenever you look at data, data is a very, very important asset for an organization today. Irrespective of what has been happening, a lot of organizations have been dependent on data, and today organizations are considering themselves as data driven organizations. Okay, so I will move into Power BI in some time, but before I move into Power BI, jump into Power BI, I will talk a little bit about some important data literacy concepts. Now, when I talk about data literacy concepts, it's important for you to understand what data literacy basically means. So when we talk about data literacy, if you see a lot of organizations and a lot of these people who teach data basics, or databases and data analytics and business analytics, they talk a lot about data literacy. Now, let me tell you, data literacy forms it forms an integral part of the data analytics space or data science space. If you want to get into data science or data analytics, it's important that you understand what data literacy is all about. So data literacy basically means understanding data, working with the data, and communicating with data. So if you know these three things, you are considered to be a data literate person. Today, a lot of organizations have so much of data at their disposal, but they don't really know what to do with the data. So getting insights from the data, understanding the data is what exactly we're going to learn in this particular bootcamp. See, teaching you how to work with Power BI and clicking buttons here and there is absolutely one of the aims of this particular bootcamp. But most importantly, it's important that you understand how to work with data. See, as a data analyst, it's more about uh, data and the ability to understand data properly. That's also one of the very important thing. Okay. Now, when we talk about the data literacy concepts, there are some important concepts that I would want you to understand. And first and foremost, it's basically about data itself. So if you say data, data is categorized under two main important ways of working with it. One is granularity, and the second is the kind of data that exists in a single column. Now, before we actually move ahead, let me talk about some important concepts with respect to rows and columns. So typically data is always given to us in a spreadsheet format. Okay. And when you talk about rows and columns are sometimes interchangeably also called as records or observations. Okay. And columns are also referred to as fields or variables. So if you hear any of these terms, please understand that it's rows or it's records. You need to understand that this is rows, records, and observations are the same thing. Columns, fields, and variables are the same thing. Okay. Now, when we talk about granularity of data, granularity basically comes from the word granule, which means small particles. And when converted into a data aspect or data standard, it means details. So when you have too much of detail in your data, you are talking about having granularity in your data. Okay. So remember that you can have high level granularity or low level granularity. Okay. I'm writing H and L. When you say high level granularity, you have more detail in your data. Okay. Like everything is at the transactional level. Whereas here, when you say you have less granularity, you have less detail in your data. Okay. So basically, when you talk about data, like the one I just showed you, the transactions database for. So if you actually look at this, you can see here you've got rows, row ID, order date, etc. And you have about 51,000 odd rows of data. So we have 51,291 rows of data. Every row of data is pertaining to a particular order ID. Okay, there's an order that is being placed on a particular date. It has been shipped on a particular date. It goes through a particular ship mode and so on and so forth. Now, the important point here is to understand, okay, to understand that when we have more detail in our data, the way of working with our data is much more easier. Okay, it's much more easier to work with. So you have more data, you have more detail, and that makes it much more easier to work with your data. So when we say we have more detail in the data, we are basically talking about data which is at the transactional level. Okay, this is also referred to as detailed data, or sometimes it's also referred to as unpivoted data, like the one that we see in Excel. If I want to actually create a like a report out of it, I will have to pivot the data. If you have some Excel knowledge, you would understand this. And finally, it is also referred to as granular data. So these four keywords are used to talk about data which has more detail in it. On the other hand, data which has less detail is more or less referred to as data which is consolidated, summarized. So these are keywords that could be used to describe data which is having lesser detail in it. It could also be referred to as pivoted or data which is aggregated. Now, these are some very important basic concepts of data literacy that you need to understand. So first and foremost, whenever you look at your data, you should be in a position to identify whether your data is whether the data is granular or whether it is consolidated. Okay, so quickly, the data that I just showed you, can you tell me whether it is granular or whether it is aggregated? I want everyone to put it in the chat quickly. Come on, put it in the chat, everyone, whether it is. So whether it is granular or aggregated, the data that I showed you, whether it is granular or aggregated. Okay, so I can see a few people putting in aggregated. Please note that the data that I just showed you is, yes, it's granular. So why is it granular? Because every single row contains a single information or a single transactions detail. Okay, when if it was considered aggregated, it would be aggregated at some level, maybe at the date level or something. I'll show you what aggregated data actually looks like later on. Okay, anyways, now let me talk about the kind of data that you normally deal with. So typically when you talk about the kind of data, we normally talk about, yes, so I can see a lot of people putting in granular. That's absolutely right. Okay, at any point in time, if you're feeling bored or you're not understanding anything, please put it in the comment and I will take it forward from there. Okay, so please let me know if the session is interesting, whether you're enjoying the session or no, and let me know whether you're understanding everything. Okay, if you're enjoying the session, please send us quick messages in terms of enjoying the session, or put hearts or put some likes or thumbs up or something that gives us an idea that we are kind of working with it. Yeah, I guess if we understand the data set easily, then it's no. Raja the King, I think that's not the way to understand it. If you understand it easily, it is aggregated. I'll explain what is the difference between the two of them. Hold on. Okay. Now, when we talk about the kind of data, we are basically talking about two different types of data that we normally deal with. One data is basically data which is with respect to numerical data, and one data is with respect to non-numerical. So a lot of people think that everything which is numerical is going to be a particular kind of data. That's not how it works. So please note, in terms of kinds of data, there are two types of data. One is called as qualitative data, which is also referred to as categorical data. Okay, and on the other hand, there's quantitative data, which is also referred to as continuous data. Now, whenever your data is categorical, there are two major bifurcations that can be possible in this. One is nominal data and the other one is ordinal data. Okay, and on the other hand, when you talk about quantitative data, okay, it's just ratio or continuous data. Now, nominal data is data where you don't have any order. For example, maybe the color of the car or maybe model of the car, etc. Okay, on the other hand, ordinal data is something where you have an intrinsic order in that particular column available. For example, the educational qualification of the candidate. Okay, so when you say educational qualification, you normally have 10th, then 12th, then 15th, then your post-graduation, etc. And on the other hand, when you talk about categorical data, it has to be everything which is non-numerical is by default categorical in nature. But when it comes to numbers, okay, when this comes to numbers, please note that in numerical cases, if the data can be aggregated, that means if I can take a total of it and it makes sense, it is continuous in nature. And if it is numerical and cannot be aggregated, it is treated as a categorical field. I'll give you an example. Let's say when you registered, you were given a registration number, or there was a code that was sent to you that, okay, this is your registration number or this is the invoice number. That number is considered as a categorical field because you cannot take a total of it and make sense. Like roll numbers in classes. Roll numbers are numerical values, but they are not quantitative variables. They are qualitative variables. On the other hand, anything which is like a profit or maybe your score in class, etc., they can be aggregated and they can make sense when they are aggregated or averaged out. Hence, they are treated as quantitative fields. Okay. Yes, Uday, that's right. In quantitative data, you also have the interval data, but I'm not kind of getting people into that. The reason is because it could get a little confusing at the base level. So don't worry. Okay. Aggregate is when we combine the data set, not really combine, but when we actually take a total of things. High granularity is very detailed example. Okay. Perfect. Right. Okay. I can see a few. Yeah. Thank you. So I can see a lot of hearts coming up. You people are enjoying the session, and that really gives me the confidence to give you better stuff. Okay. Yeah. So Saurabh, I'm going to give you a real life example. Don't worry. Okay. So this is what we talk about when we talk about the data and we work with the data. So if you actually look at this row ID, now if you look at row ID, this is a real life example. In case of this data set, row ID is a column that is used only to identify the transaction. So this transaction ID is 32298. That's it. Okay. Now, if I take a total of this entire column, if I select the entire column, I can see there's some sum over here that shows up. This does not make sense. The reason is because this is a nominal variable. If I take a total of this, it will not really make any sense for me. On the other hand, if you look at a value like this, which is profit, if I select this entire column, I will see a sum which says, okay, this is my sum. And this basically indicates that the company is making a total profit of about 14 point some million, right? Now, this is how you identify your quantitative variables and qualitative variables when they are numerical in nature. Okay. Marks can be called as quantitative and roll numbers can be. Yes, that's right. Madhvi, that's absolutely right. Okay. Also, don't be much theoretical. Better. Siva, I am going to jump into the Power BI. Don't worry, very soon. But explaining this is important because a lot of people don't come from a data background and they are kind of interacting with data for the first time. So maybe that's one of the reasons I prefer going a little theoretical initially and then moving into the actual aspect of Power BI. Okay, I hope that is great with you, Siva. Siva Subhash. Yeah, okay. So a little bit of theory is important because if you don't understand theory, then you will not really be able to move into the tool. And if I move into the tool directly without a little bit of theoretical explanation, you'll be wondering what's happening at that end. Okay. Anyways, now it's time for us to quickly look at this data in a consolidated form. So to actually look at it in a consolidated form, I'll go to the insert tab and then I'll go to pivot table and then I go to a new worksheet and I add my entire work data into a data set. Okay. Yes, this is part of not really descriptive statistics specifically, but then basic understanding of data. So I'll start off by dragging my profit into the values area and I can see a consolidated number. This is basically a number which gives me information. So I can just go about changing the value field settings into a currency or maybe into an accounting format with a dollar English United States format with 0 decimal places. And here you can see that the data is basically about 1.4 million. So it's about $14,67,457. Now, the beauty about Power BI and pivot tables is that you can consolidate your data very easily. So if you actually drag any of these fields that are there, like for example, the customer name or the segment or the city or the postal code, etc., any of these fields into the rows area, you will get a breakdown of this data. For example, if I drag, let's say, the category into the rows area, you can see very easily that entire 14 lakhs is broken down into different values for different categories. Can you see this? So this is called as aggregated data. And on the other hand, this is called as granular data. So when you have more details in your data, you are basically referring to granular data. And when you have less details, like here, I don't know for each of them what is the values, right? But in a pivot table, moving from an aggregated value to a granular value is not very difficult. If I just double click, you see a new sheet opens up and this gives you details for furniture. But anyways, I don't need all this, so I'm just deleting it. Okay, I'm deleting this as well. Now let's move ahead and become more adept in handling data in Power BI. Okay. So whenever you want to move into Power BI, what we actually do is we start off with Power BI. So I'm opening up my Power BI file. I'm going to close this file and I'm going to open up my Power BI application. And there are a few settings that you need to do before you start working with Power BI. So when you open up Power BI, the first thing you do is you click on this options and settings. Okay. Now these options and settings are very important because if you do not do this, you may not see Power BI working the way it actually should be. So this is the setup where you've got uh, global settings and you have current file settings. Okay. So I've opened up Power BI and I'm now looking at the settings that are there. Now within global settings, please note all global settings basically are designed for all the files in Power BI. So the global settings are for all files. That means any file that comes in into Power BI or you open up any file in Power BI, you will basically have to, or they will adhere to these settings. On the other hand, you have got the current file settings, right? So current file settings are basically for only a single file or that particular file that you're working with. For example, if I make any changes here and I work with any data in this file, these settings will be retained only for that file. If I open up any new file, but remember, once I make the setting for this current file, I don't have to come back and do it again. This is for one file, but only the first time you start working. You don't have to come every time and make these changes. But remember, this is for the first file, or I mean for a single file, and it has to be done in the first time that you work with. The first time that you open it, make these changes and start working with it. Okay. So how do you actually go about with this and start working? So let's start off by first going to the security settings in the global settings. Here, I would recommend that you need to, in fact, you have to make these changes. Otherwise, your maps will not work. ArcGIS for Power BI. Second is map and field map visuals. These are two things that you would need to make or you would need to activate if you've not activated them. Okay. Now, once you've done this, the next thing that you need to do is you need to go to the preview features. Now, in the preview features, what you need to do is you need to go ahead and make changes or you need to activate the preview features. So please remember to activate this on object interaction. You can activate all the features in the preview features option if you want, but I want this specific one to be activated because when you activate this, you give Power BI the complete command as to how to handle the data and put it into different visuals. Otherwise, what will happen is you will have to select the visual and then you will have to prepare it. So either of those things are absolutely fine, but I prefer using this on object interaction. It gives me a lot more command and control over my data whilst working with it. Okay. The next thing that you need to do is you need to now, if you are working with a data set which has multiple tables, okay, I'm repeating this. If you are working with a data set that has multiple tables, you will need to make a few changes. That is, you need to go to the data load tab over here under the current file. And in the data load section, there are two options that you can deactivate. Now, please let me explain what these two options are. So, how many of you are already well versed with lookup functions? So if you are already well versed with lookup functions, if I give you a very simple example, okay. So let's say, for example, you have got, sorry, if you've got three tables, okay, I'm just drawing the three tables here, okay, for a reason I'm drawing it in this way. So you have, let's say, a product table, you have a customer table, okay, and you have a sales table. Now, when you have a sales table, you have information about the sales ID or maybe the invoice ID. Okay, you have the customer ID, you have the customer name, okay, then you have the product ID, you have the product name, okay, and then maybe you have got the quantity of the product that has been purchased, and you have got the rate at which it has been purchased, and maybe you have the amount of that particular transaction. Okay, that's the information available. Whereas in the products table, you have a product ID, you have product name, then you have the product category, okay, and maybe you also have the product subcategory, just for example. And then here, maybe you have got the customer ID, the customer name, the customer region that the customer belongs to. Okay, these are three fields that you have here. Now let's say the boss says, okay, great, you're giving me a total amount, but I want this amount to be broken down by the region of the customer. Now in the sales table, do I have the region of the customer? Give me a quick yes or no in the chat box. Quickly, come on, give me answers quickly, everyone. Do I have the customer region in the sales table? No, I do not have the customer region in the sales table. So obviously, if I don't have it in my sales table, how do I typically bring that customer region into my sales table? If I'm using Excel, how would I bring it? Yes, how would I bring it if I don't have the data? I will use what function will I use? VLOOKUP function. So if I use the VLOOKUP function, I will be able to extract my customer region, and I will be able to get information about the customer region into my sales table. And basis that, I will be able to extract information about, let's say, Mumbai, Gujarat, or whatever details I have. Or maybe let's say Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Chennai, Hyderabad, or whatever, right? So when I have this information, I will be able to break down my data. This is in a typical Excel environment. But if I'm working with Power BI, I will not be using VLOOKUP. I will be using something called as relationships. So when I actually talk about this in the data modeling concepts in the session tomorrow, you'll understand it better. Okay. So let's begin with the session, and let's begin with the working in this. So here I will leave this on because right now I'm not using multiple table data source. I'm just using a single table data source. So I'll just go ahead and I will click on OK. Now when you click on OK after making changes to the global settings, you will be asked to restart Power BI. Okay, please note that you restart Power BI, because if you do not do that, if you don't close it and open it again, your global settings will not be applied. This is a very, very important thing. Keep that in mind. Okay, perfect. Now let's go ahead and connect to the different data sources that we have. So before we actually begin, Power BI has got a very simple interface, but a lot of multiple components that are there. So you'll have to be very careful in terms of where you click, what you click, and how you navigate through the entire interface. Okay, so here we see the entire ribbon, and you can see different tabs are available, and within each of the tab you've got different command groups with different commands in it. Okay, so don't worry about how this is to be done. I will explain to you these things contextually. Okay, that means we will look at certain aspects of working with it, and then you will understand these tabs or these particular commands one by one, right? Okay. Now, when you go to the file button, you can see you have the option for save as, etc., export and all that. Right now, we're not looking at that. When we need to, we'll discuss that. So I'll begin with by connecting to the data source, and then we'll come back to Power BI interface. So the first thing I'm going to do is I can choose either from these data sources that I have, or I can click on this Get Data button. Now, please note, when I click on the Get Data button, what happens is it opens up the Get Data, and it allows me to see various data sources, like different types of data sources. So all is basically to see all the different data sources, and these are for the other different types of data sources that we have, like file, database, etc. So you can actually click on file and you can look at the file data sources. You can look at database data sources, Microsoft Fabric, Power Platform. To keep things simple in today's session, I'm just going to click on File and I will click on Excel Workbook. Now, when I do click on Excel Workbook and click Connect, it will ask me where is my data stored. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to the folder where I have my data set stored. So I have this stored in this folder for the Let's Upgrade Bootcamp. I will go back and I will connect to this particular data set. So let me connect to the Global Superstore data set and click Open. Now, when you click Open, if you do not have Excel installed, you can still have a quick preview of your data over here. Okay. So the preview of the data basically, sir, should I down? Uday, you can do it, but right now for this data set, we don't need to do it. So when I do it for the other data set, you will understand why I've done it. Okay. Anyways, let's begin with the orders table. So I'm clicking on the orders table and I'm going to click on the option transform data. Now you'll be wondering, why do I need to transform the data? So please note that even if you know that your data is very clean without any kind of problems in the data, despite that, I would always recommend that you transform your data. I'll explain why transformation of data is so important. Transformation of data is so important because you need to set up the correct data types for every single column while working with your data. Okay. So you need to cross check and see whether the data types have been applied correctly or no. Okay. So let's click on transform data. And when you click on transform data, you will come into another tool, which is a part of the Power BI ecosystem called as Power Query. Now, please note, Power Query is also, like in my language, I normally refer to it as the washing machine of the data. Now, why is this called as the washing machine of the data? Because this is where all the cleaning, the scrubbing, and the transformation actually takes place. So this is basically for your data cleaning. Okay. So there are various transformations that you can actually perform in Power Query. And please note that this is a very, very powerful tool. Just 1 minute. Yeah. Okay. So I will begin by looking at the data and the Power Query editor first. So Power Query editor, basically here, you can see this is where you have the title of the file, and then you have got your minimize, maximize, and close buttons, and then you have the ribbon. So just like you have a ribbon for other applications like Power BI or maybe for Excel, etc., you have these tabs available. And within each tab, you have got the different command groups, and then you have got the different commands available, right? So let's do one thing. Let's quickly go ahead and explore this entire interface. Now here you can see there's the queries pane. Now this queries pane basically tells you how many databases or basically how many data sources you have connected to. Okay. So here basically I've connected to one single table called as the orders table, right? So with respect to the orders table, I've connected to it, but I've connected to only one single data source. Now remember, when you're connecting to a data source, the data source could be an Excel file with multiple tables in it. So that means I'm connecting to one data source, but I'm having multiple tables in it. And those tables individually are treated as queries. Now, why are they called as query? Query, basically the word query comes from the word question. And basically you are querying your data source. You're telling the data source that please give me data from your tables. That's why it's called as queries. Okay. I won't get a little bit more into the details of that, but anyways, then you have got this button, which is called as the FX button. That's not to be messed around with, because this is where you have your formulas. They are written in a different language. This language is referred to as the M language. Okay. So please do not make any changes into this, because whatever transformations, whatever cleaning, whatever you're doing in terms of importing your data into Power BI, all that is written in a different language over here. So please do not touch it or do not make any changes to it. Okay. Yeah, Anirudh, I am taking only the orders table because that contains the orders right now. And to make things easy for us to work with, we are not taking any of the other tables. We don't need any of the other tables for now. Okay, Anirudh, I hope you've understood that. Okay. Now here you can see there's a small button over here. This small button, basically when you click on it, you can see it says there are certain other options available within this particular button that you can actually work with. So right now I'm not going to be doing anything because everything is all sorted without any issues with my data. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and look at the preview of the data. So basically this area gives you a preview of your data, but you cannot make really changes at the cell level. So please note, everything here happens at the column level. So for example, if you think that this order ID needs to be updated, I cannot update it. But if I click on replace values, I can replace this. But remember, if there is any other value with this name or with this order ID, that will also be replaced. So here, bulk replacement happens with the data. There is no individual replacement that you can do with your data. Keep that thing in mind. Okay, everything happens at the column level. There is no row level or cell level that you are working with. Okay, now we look up for customer ID. Kirti, I think your reply is it's currently out of context of the discussion. I'm not really able to understand why you have put that comment there, but anyways, let's move ahead. Okay, so you do have the query settings pane on the right hand side, and this query settings pane has got two parts. One is the properties part where you can actually give a name to your query. So please note, this name that you change is actually going to be taken forward into Power BI as the name of the table that you are working with. On the other hand, you have applied steps. Now this is where whatever changes you make, like deleting a column, updating the data types, anything that you do will be updated in the applied steps section. Okay. Now, what is the advantage of this applied steps section? Now, let me give you a very simple example. Let's say this data is pertaining from 2014 to 2016. And let's say we've got some new data that comes in. Now, if I append the data, append basically means put the data into the sheet below this. Let's say I bring in 2017 data and I want to make this data also part of the dashboard or maybe the report that I have created. So in that case, what will happen is that the entire data will be pulled in, and whatever transformations have been done on this data from 2014 to 2016, exactly those same transformations will be applied on 2017's data. Provided, okay, provided there's a clause attached, provided we have the data in exactly the same format that it is there. Clear? Okay. Is everyone clear with this? Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and begin with the transformation. So row ID now, besides every column header or the variable type or the field name, you can see there's a button. If you click on it, you can change the data type. Now, please note, unlike Excel, here there is a complete columns data type that is decided right in the beginning. So for example, here in this order date column, I cannot have information which is text in nature or numerical in nature. Everything has to be only a date based data. Similarly, if the data is here, like for example, in this column, I cannot have data which is text in nature. I can have only numerical values in nature. But as far as order ID is concerned, I can have a mixture of text and numbers because I am changing it to a text data type. Okay. So please keep these things in mind when it comes to dealing with the different data types. Now, what we do here is we move ahead and we navigate through the data, and you can see that everything seems to be well and good. But if you see, there is a particular column which actually has got this, instead of having a full green line, it's got a half green line. I mean, a very small part which is a green line, and then everything else is dark or it's black. Now you can see there are a lot of null values that are being shown up here. Now, to investigate this problem further, what you could simply do is you can go to the View tab. So under the View tab, you've got three very important options that are there called as column quality, column distribution, and column profile. Now, let me show you how to use these three options to investigate your data before you actually move ahead. So investigating your data basically means understanding what quality of data you're working with, what is the profiling of your data, like how much data is there for a particular columns, for a particular region or a particular market, etc. And third is how much of data in every column is unique and distinct. So we'll talk about these unique and distinct when we do another case study tomorrow. But for now, let's just move ahead and understand how we are working with this current data. So here I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select my column quality data. So I'll click on column quality. When I do click on column quality, for every column, you can see it tells me how much data is valid, how much is erroneous, and how much is empty. Okay. So this is where I can see the first use case of the tools that I have, where I can see the data preview. So this saves you a lot of time where you import the data and then you realize, oh, this is not a good column. We can get rid of this. Now, if you look at this kind of a data or this kind of a situation where you have 80% blank data, 80%, which is a considerable number, with this kind of number missing values, you would want to just do away with this column. So I would want to delete this column. So it's very simple to delete a column. You can just go ahead, select the column header and hit the delete key on the keyboard. When you delete it, on the right hand side, you will see that the applied steps section adds another step called as removed columns. Now please note, whenever you make a change in Power Query, there is no undo. Okay. So you do not have anything called as Control Z or undo. Like I realized, oh, I deleted this column. I should have not done that. There's no undo, but there is something better than that. Okay. Why I say better than that? Because I can retain this step. Now, please note, when I do click on the step, this is the last step of the transformation. If I click on the step just above it, I could see how this data looked like before I completed this removed columns transformation. Okay. Now, these are certain things. These are certain things that are not taught in any of these courses specifically that you normally go about. But I teach this because this is a very important and useful technique of managing data before the data is brought into Power BI. Okay. So please note that this is something that you need to do and understand how it works. Okay. Now, supposing you realize, okay, I don't want to remove the column, you can just delete this step. But remember, when you delete the step, there's no going back. You will have to again go back. So if I've deleted the step, that means I'm getting back my column. But then if I want to get rid of the column, I don't have something called as a redo or something. I will have to go manually select the column and then delete it. So the best way is to examine the data. You just go to steps before it. You will get to see how the data looks like before you have started your work. Okay. Yeah, Saurabh, I didn't get your question when you say which query to remove this null values. So I've just done one thing. I've removed the entire column. I've not written anything apart from that. There's no query or something. Query means the entire orders table. That's what it is. Okay. So if you have certainly something very specific, please put it properly into the chat. I don't understand what your question is, right? Okay. Anyways, now I've got rid of the column which had a lot of null values. Now we move ahead and we try to examine the other part of the data wherein we look at the column distribution. So when you look at the column distribution, for every column, you can see how many unique values exist and how many distinct values exist. Let's take a very simple example of the market column. Now in the market column, we have got 7 distinct and 0 unique values. What does this actually mean? It means that I have got 7 markets that the company operates in, and not even one market is unique. That means every single market is repeated more than one times. Now, the question of understanding this distinct and unique right now is not relevant because we don't have more than one queries in our data. If we had more than one queries, then understanding the difference between distinct and unique uh, values would be a little bit more different when it comes to handling the data. Anyways, for now, let's just move to the next part. So in the next part, what we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and we are going to look at the other aspects of the data. Just 1 minute. Okay, so the next thing that we can do is we can go about dealing with the analysis where we are looking at distinct and unique values. The third thing we can do is we can go about dealing with column profiling. Column profile, it gives you the count, the error, the distinct. Simultaneously, it gives you the count of transactions for each of these particular markets. Now, before you have even started your analysis, you know that APAC has got the maximum number of transactions, which basically is somewhere close to. So if you hover your cursor, you get 33% of the entire transactions come from the APAC market, that is the Asia Pacific market. Okay. Okay, so in my okay, show the data has been truncated. How can I record? Satya, data is truncated due to limits. Don't worry, you just load the data. Okay, as in you start transformation. You don't have to worry about the truncation, because when you actually look at the preview of the data, it just gives you only a small chunk of the data seen in that preview. So don't worry about that. You can directly move ahead. Okay. Satya, I hope you have got an answer to your query now. Okay. So we've looked at the three options. I'm just going to quickly go ahead and switch these three off, and I will move into the next part where I move to the other columns and I move my, you know, I just move to looking at sales data. So all my metrics, basically all the continuous variables, or we can focus our attention on the metrics right now. Now metrics, when we are talking about metrics, are your sales, quantity, discount, profit, shipping cost. These need to be quantitative variables, but they don't just need to be quantitative variables randomly. They need to have a proper data type so as to make sense while working with the data. So first and foremost, sales, profit, and shipping cost, all of them need to be in dollar formats called as fixed decimal values. Okay, so let's just change them. Now whenever you want to change the data type of multiple columns simultaneously, you can select the first column, then hold the control key and select the remaining two columns of data, and then you can either go to the home tab and you can change the data type from here by clicking this drop down, or else you can right click and you can say change type, and then you can click on the option fixed decimal number. So when you click on fixed decimal number, automatically the data type will be fixed decimal number. See, there are no notes specifically that I have for this specific thing, but what I can do is maybe you can just go back and refer to this entire video and start doing things simultaneously with the video and watching it and then doing it, because I don't have any specific notes pertaining to this. Okay. Anyways, now I've got these columns that have been updated. I've got the specific data types updated. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the discount column to a percentage type, and quantity will remain as it is. Now whatever basic transformations I had to do, now please do not think that these are the only transformations in Power Query. There are many more transformations and many more complicated transformations that you can actually do in Power Query. Okay. Okay, can you hear me now and see the screen as well? Okay, thank you. Yeah, you have access to this video. It will be on YouTube, so don't worry. That's not going to be much of an issue. Okay, just 1 minute. I'm just taking a minute's break right now. Just 1 minute. Yeah. So for all those who are having a issue with respect to, not able to understand and stuff, don't worry. Just stay with me throughout the session. You will understand everything once you have access to the data sets. And I think the data set is already there. Aditya Vaidya, when you say you have a different Excel sheet, it doesn't have orders table, it has different columns. Which Excel sheet are you referring to? Which Excel file are you referring to? Are you referring to the global superstore data set? Because I shared 3 files. Check that out, please. Okay, so I'm just moving ahead. Now here you can see, as I mentioned, we've got 4 buttons. So this one is basically called as the report view. And in the report view, you are basically going to have access to the ribbon, the interface where you can actually create all your visuals. So here you can see there's a page 1, and you can keep adding multiple pages if you feel you want to add multiple pages. The second one is dealing with this one, which is the table view. So when you actually click on the table view, you can see that you are able to see all the data at the back end, but you won't be able to make any changes to this. Okay, if you want to make any changes, you'll have to go to the source data, or you'll have to go to the Power Query editor. Okay, then you have the third one, that is model view. In the model view, this I call as the garage view, or basically a view which helps me to create or work with multiple things like creating calculations, relationships, properties in the data, etc. Okay, so all these things can easily be done using the model view. This is the model view. Now when you actually look at this here, you can see there is a square, or basically a rectangle here, that tells you we've got orders, and this one table has got multiple columns in it. Okay, in this properties pane here, you're currently seeing the properties of the orders table. So if you actually select this, you can see the orders table. If I click within this a particular field or a particular column, you can see properties pertaining to that particular column. So as and when we need this, I will explain it to you how it works. Okay, so currently I will go back to the report view, and let's start working with our data. Now, once you have completed the transformation, or the ETL process as it is called, ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. Okay. So what we are going to do here is we are going to go ahead and start building the first visual in our data. Now, as a business owner, or maybe as a business analyst, my job would be to understand what is the total sales for the entire organization. Now there are two methods of building your visuals. Okay. Now please note here, if you look at the data, it is absolutely granular in nature. Okay. That means there's no aggregated data. It's granular in nature. Now in Excel, one of the major differences while working with Excel and Power BI is in Excel, if I want to create a visual that tells me about the different categories versus the sales by category, what I would want to do is I would want to get a pivot table first, and then from that pivot table, I'll create a chart, because the pivot table is used for converting granular data to aggregated data, which is then used for creating a chart. But that's not the way it works in Power BI. In Power BI, you can directly from your granular data, you can directly move into a visual or create a visual out of this. Okay. So how does it work? Let me show you. It's very simple. It's completely drag and drop, and it's a very interactive tool. So for this, you can see there are check boxes on every single field or column that we have. So all these are fields in the data set. So if I want to see what is the total sales, I can simply click on the sales checkbox here. And when I do that, I get the sales analyzed for me. Okay. So what I can do is, once this is done, this is a default visual created based on what data I have selected. Okay. Now this is an international data set where I don't want the rupee symbol to appear, but I want a dollar format to be appearing. Basically, this is more in the USD format or the dollar format. Now for that to actually happen, what I will do is I will go to the table view, and in the table view, I will go ahead and connect with the table view, and I will see what are the different columns that need to be converted to a dollar format and work with it. So let's just go to the table view, and let's start by selecting these columns. Okay. One by one. Here you cannot do it multiple columns. So I'll start by selecting sales. And once I select a column in the table view, you can see the column tools tab that's available. Now these kind of tabs are called as contextual tabs. Why are they called contextual tabs? They are called contextual tabs. The reason is because they will only be available when you click on a particular object. For example, if I click on the column, only then will this particular tab be available. Okay. So for example, if I click on this column, then it changes the column tools accordingly. Okay. If I click on the table, you will see the column tools has now disappeared. You're only able to see table tools. Okay. Anyways, now let's click on the sales table and then sales column. I'm sorry. And let's select this display values in the column as currency. Once I've done this, the next thing I will do it for profit, and I will do it for shipping cost as well. So all these three are now updated accordingly, whereas my discount will go into as a percentage format. Okay. Now, after I've completed these, I will go back to my report view, and you can now see that I have got the appropriate formatting applied. Now, once I've got the appropriate formatting, the next thing that I need to do is I need to break this down by the different categories of the products that are being offered. So the best part is, once I have the visual selected, okay, I'm not really sure, KK, about which tool can be used for running Windows, Windows software on Linux, because Wine is something that I know because it's been a very long time since I last used Linux. So you can just check up. Maybe you could do a little bit of Googling and see what is there for that. Okay. I'm extremely sorry. I can't really help you on that front. Anyways, now what I do is keeping this visual selected. Now keep this in mind. As long as your visual is selected and you click on any of these fields, those fields will become a part of the visual. And the best part is it will automatically keep updating the visual according to what I keep adding to the visual. Okay. But now this is happening because of the on object interaction feature that we had activated right in the beginning before we brought the data into Power BI. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I want to look at some important features of Power BI when compared to Excel. So there are a few things that you would want to do whenever you are looking at the data. So I'll create one visual which is going to be sum of sales by the category, and then I will also create another visual. So if I want to create another visual, I just go ahead and I click somewhere in the white space here, and I start from scratch with sales, and then I try to break down this sales visual by the market. Now look at what happens when I do click on any one of the market that is there here. You will see when I click on market, it gets highlighted, and simultaneously that value gets highlighted for all the three different categories as well. Now this is called as cross filtering. Okay, and this is one of the best features I like about Power BI. What cross filtering helps you to do is it enables you to see what is happening in the other visuals just by clicking on one element in the current visual that you're working with. You don't need to create a specific filter or something. You can just directly click and automatically everything will be updated. But you can edit this particular working. That is done by something called as edit interactions. Now, editing interactions is a very important tool that's there, which a lot of people don't really know about in Power BI. So what does edit interactions actually do? Let me show you. So let's say what I want is when I click on any one of these markets, I do not want this to just highlight that portion, but I want the value to be filtered. Now, before I actually apply or make any changes to the editing of interactions, let me show you how to format these particular visuals that we have worked with. Now, when you click on the report view on the right hand side, you've got multiple panes that you can see, right? Format, and then build, and then data. Now, for these things to work properly, you can actually go to the view tab, and under that you've got something called as show panes. So I normally keep by default these three panes activated because they're very useful and they are used in the day-to-day tasks. You also have something called as pane manager. When you click this drop down, there is this option called show only one active pane. Now what happens if I uncheck this? Okay, when I uncheck this and I click on build a visual, you can see that the build a visual pane keeps getting, or it just keeps popping up, and it takes up more of my screen space. So remember, real estate on the screens that we are working with is very, very less. So please use it carefully. So what I normally prefer doing is I don't want all these three panes to be visible simultaneously. I just keep this activated, which is called show only one pane. Okay, and then I select the data pane. Okay, and then whenever I want to change the pane, I could just go ahead and change these panes as per my requirement. Okay. Okay, so far so good. Now let's go to the format a visual pane, and for both of them, let me activate the data labels. So here in the format pane, you've got different, aspects of the visual that you can format. If you can't find a property, please go to this search and update it. But right now, I'll just activate data labels here as well as data labels here. Okay, so you can see that APAC is contributing 3.6 million and technology is contributing 4.7 million of the total sales, etc. Anyways, now what we need to do is we need to understand, if I select APAC, okay, it gives me 1.4 million, but instead of highlighting this, I want it to be filtering the data. So just to show you how it works, what I will do is I'll click on the white space. So remember, if I click on technology, it will be vice versa over here as well. It will show you out of the 4.7 million, how is the amount distributed for the different markets over here. Okay, are you guys enjoying the session? Everyone, give me a quick thumbs up or give me a quick like or maybe a heart in the comments section. Everyone, quickly. Yeah, okay, I'm waiting for your encouragement. In the meantime, when I do click on this white space here, it gets reset, and so does the other visual also get reset. Now what I can do is under my format pane, I could select any one of these visuals. So for example, if I select this visual and I click on edit interactions, now in addition to this, I have another one more visual. Okay, let me just create one more visual for making things easier for you to understand. let's begin with sales by segment. Okay, this is just one more, and then this also I will switch on the data labels. Now once I have these three visuals, when I select this visual, you can see there are three buttons that pop up on the other two visuals. If I select this visual, there are again the three buttons that pop up on the other two visuals. Now what are these visual buttons for? Let me show you. So let's take sum of sales by market as the base visual. Basically, I want to see how is this visual going to interact with the remaining two visuals. Now, if you look at these three buttons that are mentioned here, the first button shows you a symbol with a chart and a filter. The second one shows you a symbol with something like a simple highlighter. And the third one is a cross, or basically a nothing to do or no interaction basically. So if I select the first one for this particular visual, and if I click on APAC, look at what happens. Here it gives me the value only for APAC, okay? But here it is highlighting it. So you can see I could make changes to how my visuals interact with each other depending on my requirement, okay? The second thing that is there is highlighting. So this is highlighting. And the third one is no interaction. That means if I click on any of these, nothing is going to change here. So basically, there are three different ways you can interact or cross filter. The first one is highlight, which is the default one. The second one is filter, which is actually the first one in this. And the third one is none. Okay, so whichever one you want to actually apply to your different visuals, you could accordingly adjust it. Okay. Has everyone understood the cross filtering concept? Give me a quick thumbs up for this quickly. Give me a quick yes, or maybe a thumbs up stating that you've understood how to work with cross filtering and how to edit the interactions in different visuals. Okay. So here, once I have completed this, if I want to disable these interactions, or basically I want to switch off the edit interactions button, I go back to my format tab and I switch off the interactions over here. Now, please note there are two places where I've got this format option. One is the format tab. So when I say I'm clicking on the format tab, I will be clicking here. And second is the format pane. So please note this format pane is for a particular visual. And the format tab is basically for the entire report that I'm working with, or Power BI as a whole. Okay. Now, as in when you move and create different visuals, you will see the different visuals having different formatting options also. There are certain visuals that will have different options. So just be very, very clear about that. Okay. So this is how the cross filtering actually works for you. Now let's talk about how to work with something called as the hierarchies. Okay. Now I'm going to explain hierarchies in Power BI. Now, what do you mean by the term hierarchy? Hierarchy is something which is an ordered list, or maybe something which is containing an intrinsic order. Intrinsic order. Intrinsic order basically means an internal order. For example, here I've got data which says category. Then I've got data which has got the subcategory. And I've got data which has got the product name. Okay, so there is a hierarchy that's possible over here: category, subcategory, and product name. Now, what do you do with this? Let's say, for example, I'm trying to understand in category, I've got technology category. Within that, I've got phones, and within that, I've got the iPhone. Just an example. Now, if I'm interested in looking at how much of the overall sales of phones is coming in from iPhones, I could use this particular hierarchy for understanding it. Okay, so let's see how this actually works. Now let's move ahead and look at the analysis further. So I'll go to this. Okay, now when I select a visual, there's something called as the focus mode, which allows me to expand or focus specifically on that particular visual. Okay, now let me go back and let me just show you what exactly we do with respect to hierarchies. Now, hierarchies can be created, but before I actually show you how to create one, let me show you how to use a temporary hierarchy in your data. So currently I want to have a hierarchy which has got category, subcategory, and the product name. So I select this visual and then I go to the data pane, and there, or maybe I go to the build a visual pane. So I'll just show you what happens if I directly click on the fields. Now, if you can see here, when you select this, it says suggest a visual, okay? And then it shows you the different areas of the visual. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and click on subcategory to add it to my, to add it to this current visual. So I select this visual and then I click on subcategory. Now, when I do click on the subcategory, what happens is it breaks down my data for every single category with lines for different subcategories. Now, this is not what I actually wanted. So I do not want the subcategories to be part of the legend. In fact, I want subcategory to be part of the y-axis. The moment I drag it from the legend to the y-axis, you can see it disappears. But the moment it disappears, you have something else that appears here on the top. Can you see this? You've got some more additional buttons that come up. Now I'll explain what these buttons are. But before I explain the buttons, let me go to this y-axis here and click add data. So whenever you want to create a temporary hierarchy, this is one of the best ways of creating it. So you can click add data, and from here you can add the product name. Once you've added it, you cannot see them in the visual for now, but it's part of it. Now, how do you actually utilize these buttons that have been added? Now, please note, these buttons are basically called as the drilling buttons. So there are three buttons. One is click to turn on drill down. Second is for go to the next level in the hierarchy. And third is to expand all down one level in the hierarchy. Now, to understand this better and to focus more on this, I'll just go to the focus mode and I will show you what happens when we click on these options. Okay, so for example, when I click on click to turn on drill down, and when I click on technology, what this does is it focuses only on technology based subcategories. And if I click on phones, it focuses only on phones of the technology category. Okay. Now, in addition to this, if I want to go back up, like I want to drill back up to the levels, I can just click on drill up and I will be able to drill up to the highest level. Now, for now, let me go back to the report and show you what happens when I click this drill mode on. Now, normally when I do click on this drill mode, okay, this one drills to the levels for technology, but the other visuals get updated for technology only. Can you see this? Okay. So if I drill back up, you'll see the difference. Like right now, APAC is 3.6 million overall sales. But when I click on technology, it tells you that APAC is contributing to 1.36 million sales for the technology category or technology area. Okay. Again, when I click on phones, again, here the value diminishes to 0.49 million. Okay. That's about $486,000. And there you can see this is for Apple smartphone. When I click on Apple smartphone, okay, nothing's going to really happen because the drill down option is on. So I will drill up and show you the next option now. The next one is go to the next level in the hierarchy. So when I click on this, it ignores any of the category level options and it directly gives you all the subcategories in the data. So you can see phones, copiers, chairs, etc. All of them are being shown here. So all your subcategories can be seen in this particular scenario. Now, when you click on it again, you are able to go down to the product level. Okay, you're at the product level right now. And at the product level, you're able to see the individual products irrespective of subcategory or categories. I'll drill up and then I will show you the third one. Now what happens in the third one is when I click on expand down one level, let me go to the focus mode so you can see it better. So when I click on this, you can see along with the along with your values that are there, you can see the respective category, the respective subcategory as well. Okay. And also when I click one more level, you can see every single product and you can see every single product subcategory and the category for itself. Now, by default, whenever you create this kind of a hierarchy, or whenever you try to work with this kind of a hierarchy, please note by default, everything is going to be sorted based on the numerical field. Okay. So when you sort this based on the numerical field, you can go ahead and change it from the more options section. So if I click on these three dots here and I click on sort axis, I could choose this axis, that is the category, subcategory, and product name. So when I do click on this, you can see right now everything for phones is being shown. Okay, these are all the phones that are there, starting with the descending order. So I can change this to a sort axis, sort ascending order. When this is coming up, I will have furniture, and then I'll have bookcases within it, and then I can keep scrolling, and there are a lot of products that are there for bookcases. Then I've got chairs, then I've got the next is furnishings, then I've got tables, I've got, after tables, I think I've got appliances. Okay, so this keeps just scrolling through and so on and so forth. Art, binders, and all the information is then populated for you accordingly. Okay, so I can go back up by drilling up to the highest level of the hierarchy, and then I could go back sort access by sum of sales in a descending order. That is the default one. Now, once you've done this, this is how you create a temporary hierarchy in your data. So far, is everyone clear with this? Is everyone clear with what we've discussed so far? Okay, I'm glad. Now, how do I actually go ahead and create this hierarchy that can, so I'll just switch this off, that can be used throughout. So the thing is that if I delete this visual, okay, for example, and now I want to recreate this, I will have to go through all those steps again because I need to set up the hierarchy again. So if I want a hierarchy to be created and remain as part of my data, I can go to the data model view. Now in the data model view, you can see all the columns of the orders table. You can even start creating the hierarchy from here in the report view, but I'm not a big fan of creating or working with my data in the report view. I normally prefer doing it in the model view. Now in the model view, there are multiple things that you can do. For example, if you see row ID is basically something which is not of use for the company, I mean for the author. So I can just hover my cursor on this icon which says hide, and I can just click on it, and when I click on it, it says it is hidden. And if I go to the report view, row ID is not available anymore in the report view. So if you want to hide certain fields from the author or the report view, you can easily do that as well. Next is dealing with the data where we are talking about applying a hierarchy. Okay, so let's say I want to give a hierarchy applied here, or I want to apply a hierarchy. So in order to apply the hierarchy, what I can simply do is I can start off by the highest level of the hierarchy, and I can either right click on it or I can click on these three dots and say create hierarchy. So when I click on create hierarchy, the name of the hierarchy by default is picked up with the current field's name and the word hierarchy attached to it. So I'll just change it to products with an S. Okay, and then here I need to specify which are the other fields that will be part of the hierarchy. So please remember that when I hit enter here, it is going to update the name of the hierarchy. And if you expand this, you will see which fields are part of the hierarchy, but the original field also remains there. Now, this is where you need to understand the different elements of the data model. Now, please note this entire aspect that we are working with is called as the data model. Now, please note that the data model consists of the data set or the data itself. It also consists of any kind of relationships that you will make. Okay, in this scenario, relationships do not exist, so not really required. It also consists of any hierarchies that you create or any changes or properties that you change. So everything is part of the data model. Now the data model is also referred to as the semantic model. So the newer name for data model is semantic model. A lot of people have now stopped calling it the data model. They're now calling it the semantic model. So please remember this. Okay. Anyways, now here you can see orders. What is orders? Orders is the name of the table. Category is the name of the field. Products is the name of the hierarchy, and category here is the level of the hierarchy. Now there's a very important difference between this hierarchy and this category here and category here. Please note that this is the table name. So you can, when you click on it, you will see properties related to the table. This is the field name, or you can say the column name. So you can change the column properties. Okay. Then you have hierarchy properties, where you can change the name of the hierarchy. You can add levels to the hierarchy. And then finally, you have the level of the hierarchy. So the only things that you can do with this is changing the name or the synonym for it. Okay. Synonym means any other name that you would want to give to it. Anyways, now I go back to my products hierarchy and I add 2 more levels to it. So here I can select a column to add level, click the drop down, and then I click on subcategory. So subcategory is added, click one more drop down and add product name. Once you've done that, just click on apply level changes and you will see that the 3 different columns have now become part of the products hierarchy. Now the best part about this creation of the hierarchy is when you go back to your report view and you want to create a simple sales by product hierarchy, you can select sales, okay, and then you can just keep this visual selected, and once you've got this visual selected, you click on this products hierarchy directly. Okay, and when you do click on it, you can see that automatically the 3 fields are added with the entire hierarchy. You don't have to manually add one field at a time. Okay, so this is the best part about it. So again, if you add one field at a time, this is what's going to happen for you. Let me just arrange the data accordingly. So instead of doing this manually, what you can simply do is you can go ahead and you can click on the products hierarchy. All 3 fields will be available and you will have the ability to drill down as per your convenience. Okay, so I hope you have understood how to work with hierarchies in Power BI, everyone. Okay, now once we have this data set up, okay, once we've learned how to work with hierarchies, the next thing that we can actually do is we can go ahead and we can work with the properties of the data. So again, for changing the properties, I can go back to the model view, and in the model view there is one more hierarchy that can be created. I'll give you a hint. It starts with country. Okay, so you have country, then you have something called as the state column. Okay, so you have the state column, and then you have got something called as the city column. So you have country, state, and city, which can be used as the next hierarchy for analysis. Okay, so this is another trick that you have to apply, or you can actually work with. Now, whenever you're working with your data, which is a hierarchy in nature, you can create the hierarchies as per your requirement. Now, you would be wondering, sir, how do you know which is the data that I can create a hierarchy for, etc.? See, right now, the data set that I'm working with is something which I am familiar with. You may work with a data set which you may be familiar with, or maybe you will work for a organization where you will be given the data set that they will update you about. Okay, this is what it is and stuff about it, etc., etc. Now, the important thing here is that whenever you're working with the data, first and foremost, please note that data analysts are not just about working with tools. Okay, I'm just taking a kind of a digression from the topic here, or I'm just diverting from the topic. A lot of people think that, just by knowing Power BI, I'm going to be a very good data analyst. That's not true. See, knowing the tool is one thing. Okay, So you may have tools knowledge. You may have very good tools knowledge. But if you don't understand your data, it's of no use for you. So data understanding is also very important, because without understanding data, you will not really be in the position to make proper decisions with respect to your tools. If I don't apply the right techniques on my data with the tool that I'm working with, like I don't know what a hierarchy, which hierarchy I can create, what is the kind of data that I'm working with, I'm not going to be on the right track to analyze my data. So this is very, very important. Okay. So please ensure that as an analyst, you open your mind to understanding what data you're working with. So I'll give you a very simple example. So I do a lot of trainings and corporate consultations for organizations. Okay. And one of them that I'm currently working with is a FMCG company. I'm not going to name it, okay, because it's an open platform. Okay. It's an FMCG organization. Now, as an FMCG organization, they deal with multiple products, and the number of products that they are handling is like humongous. Okay. There they need to identify, okay, what is actually happening within our data, how do we deal with it and stuff. So there's a lot of dummy data I have basically prepared, and I work with them, because whenever you work with proper data, whenever you work with the appropriate formatting of the data, it really gives you the right insights that you want to work with. Okay. So now, before we actually kind of close for today's session, we have about 8 minutes. Let me start giving you some idea about how to create the, let's just go ahead and apply some properties. Okay. So let me just show you what exactly happens when I try to create a visual. I'm just deleting all these visuals. And let's say what happens when I try to create a visual based on the country. So I create sales and then I click on country. Now, because I've created a visual which is involving a geospatial field or a geographical field, ideally this should have been converted into a map visual automatically, but that didn't happen. But I can still change it by selecting a map visual. But if I actually want this to happen automatically, what I can do is I can go ahead and I can easily update the data property. So I can go to the model view, and in the model view, I can select country. Now, when I select country, in the properties section here on the left hand side, you've got something called as the advanced properties. So when you click this, you can scroll down and you have data category. Here, instead of uncategorized, you can go to country. Okay, country region. When you do that, you will see you've got this globe icon indicating it is a geographical icon. Same way I could do it for state as well. I will change this data category to state or province, and here I will change the city to city. So this way I have applied the proper or the appropriate properties to these fields. Now when I go back to my data, if I select the sales field, and then if I try to increase the granularity or more details by clicking on country, you will see now automatically it creates a map chart for you, or basically a bubble map chart for you. Okay, so you've understood this, how this works, everyone? Okay, so now since we've understood how to go about building the entire report, the entire setup in terms of the modeling of the data, etc., let's move on to understanding how to work with the calculations in the data. Now, whenever you work with calculations in data, okay, there are mainly two types of calculations that you work with. So basically, I'll give you an understanding of what are the calculations that we normally work with in Power BI. Now, I think we have only about 5 minutes before we close. Okay, so I'll do one thing. I will conduct this a little bit in detail tomorrow as well, but just to give you an update. So when we talk about calculations, we need to understand that calculations can happen in multiple areas. First and foremost, the calculations can be done in the source data itself. Okay. Now, when you say source data, it could be an Excel file or it could be a SQL Server database. or it could be on the Oracle database or wherever. Now, it is mostly recommended that you do not perform any kind of calculations on the source. Let the raw data be there and pull the data from there. If there are any calculations already there that have been done, it's okay. But if you want, you can recalculate it in Power BI. Okay. Now, why should your calculations not be done in the source? Let's say I've got a file which contains, let's say, today's data, 28th of, today is what, 28th of May. Yeah, 28th of May. And then tomorrow I will receive another file for 29th of May 2025. Now, when the frequency is so high, which is at a daily basis, every time I create a calculation, I will have to open every file that comes in and make that column or make that calculation in the column. So that is why avoid it in the source. Now, you'd be wondering that, okay, why not do it in SQL? Because it's an automated thing. Yeah, if you can do it in SQL, if you are a SQL administrator, it's okay. But if you're not a SQL database administrator, you will be at the mercy of the DBA or the database engineer to update your calculations as per your requirement. So the best thing is you do not perform your calculations in the source, you perform it within the Power BI gamut, okay, or within the Power BI environment. Now, what do you mean by providing it in Power BI? So in Power BI, you have two main places where you can create your calculations. One is within Power Query itself, and second is within Power BI. So remember, this is pre-loading the data, and this is post-loading the data. Okay. So preloading basically means when you're actually cleaning the data, you can create a column or you can create your calculations in Power Query. Post-loading means after you've loaded the data and you realize, oh, there are some calculations that we need to do. This is where you can do it. Okay. Now in Power Query, you can create your additional columns by using the custom column command. Whereas in Power BI, you will have two important types of calculations. One is called as the calculated column, and second is called as the measure. Now, this is a very, very important topic even from the interview perspective. Calculated column versus a measure. When to use a calculated column, when to use a measure, when not to use a calculated column, and when not to use a measure. These are very important things that we will be discussing in tomorrow's session. So very quickly, we have about 2 minutes before or 1 minute before we close for today's session. Okay, so give me a quick one-liner in terms of how did the session go off for you? Did you like the session? Did you enjoy the session? And I hope you all had a good time and you did understand most of the things that we discussed. Whatever you were not able to understand, please ensure that you people go back to this recording and using the data set that I've already shared, you try to understand things. Okay, so I hope you all had a good session today. Yeah, great. Okay, so I can see people are responding. I would not your hearts and the thumbs up will be a great motivation for me, and the doctors asked me to take up a lot more hearts and thumbs up from my audiences. It really helps me boost my productivity. Yeah, please everyone, please give your quick one-liner feedback. I'm sure a lot of you learned something which was completely new for you. And initially, it must have been a little intimidating. Don't worry. It may be a little difficult first and foremost to understand, but it's not very difficult. Okay, it's very, very simple. As in when you move into it, you will understand better how to deal with the data. Okay, so great, everyone. I can see all of you have given your opinions, and I'm assuming we are now done with the session. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow at the same time, 6 to 8 p.m. IST. Bye. Good night for now. Thank you for being a part of the session, and stay connected with Let's Upgrade and do keep connecting with them. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.